What is up, everyone? Welcome to Fantasy and Frames, Fantasy Football Weekly Show. We have 3/4 of our normal quartet. I'm not going to lie, the overall looks of the group significantly dip when Britt's not here.
I can make up for it, maybe.
I think it's fair to say, right? But we will get on without her. We miss her. Can't wait to have her back next week. But as you can imagine, a lot of draft stuff coming up. We're going to talk about winners, losers. I watched SummerSlam 1990, so I did a match made in heaven, match made in hell after the co-main event for what rookies ended up in the best spots and what rookies ended up in the worst spot for fit. I mean, come on. How much better does it get than that? But we'll get into all that on the other side. Welcome, everyone. And for you going, what is the match made in heaven, match made in hell? We'll get an introduction in just a second because this is now over 30 years ago. Let me explain to people. The Macho Man, Randy Savage, oh yeah, went into SummerSlam, reunited with Miss Elizabeth after WrestleMania 7, and they tied the knot in the match made in heaven portion of the pay-per-view. And in the match made in hell, you had the Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, the two biggest things in wrestling, teaming together against a bunch of stereotypes that probably would be considered racist in today's modern era. But it was still awesome, including Macho and Elizabeth having Jake the Snake and The Undertaker, of all people, crash the reception with the King Cobra. Check that out on Peacock if you have it and you understand a little bit more about what I'm saying. But I am Keith Fleming. I am hosting. I know that's a little different. So you get to hear me talk even more than normal. Sorry, guys. But I am joined by two of my favorite people in the world. First off, he's never drafted a running back, ever, in all capital letters. The great Kevin Tompkins. What's going on, Kevin?
Look, it's draft season. BBM 5 is out. I am ready to go. I am ready to never draft a running back until I am contractually obligated to do so. But other than that, look, we got through the draft. Now we're into like the best time of the year where we can go from having NFL draft takes about players without landing spots to wildly overreaching on this player is going to be the best player since, Justin Jefferson or Bijan Robinson or et cetera, et cetera. So look, it's overreaction season and we get this for the next 4 months. So
and the best part is you don't have to see the repercussions for months to the point that most people aren't going to remember your take anyway.
Just with the sweet, sweet engagement. That's all you need.
That's all it's about.
Get
Pump
that
them
dopamine
stats.
hit.
Pump them while you can. And also, my good friend, the leader of the wonderful Fantasy and Frames, Jorge Edwards. Jorge, what's going on, brother?
I am doing fantastic. I'm glad, Kevin, glad to see your face again on Fantasy and Frames airwaves.
Especially with Britt not here. We needed it, Jorge, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Factor.
So welcome back to Fantasy Football Weekly, Kevin and Britt. We wishing you a speedy recovery. Yeah, I mean, a lot to talk about, a lot of speculation, a lot of what ifs, thens, or buts. Just a lot of news coming out of the NFL draft, and even some news coming out this week in the world of professional football. So ready to get into it.
There are a few things I want to talk about at the end. Don't let me forget. One of them being the Steelers talking about using Justin Fields on kickoff returns. So I don't want to forget about that before we get over, but let's try to stay on track as much as possible early. Why am I doing this to myself? But we are all not only fantasy football contributors, but we're also football fans, and we have teams that we root for. I want to talk about each of our team's drafts and give them a draft grade. I'm going to go first as the Atlanta Falcons fan. Jesus. As you can see, my subtitle says Penix no matter what, an ode to draft day, which is only what I can see Terry Fontenot writing down as he turned the picks in for Penix is like, it's Penix no matter what. I love Penix the player. Love him. Just 150 million. It doesn't make a lot of sense. He's not going to start until, as Kevin was saying, he's about 52 years old and he has his AARP card. And the other issue is the benefit of a rookie contract is what they make. Well, if he's probably not starting to year 3 or 4, you then only have a couple of years under that rookie deal before you have to pay him. So, again, logistically, it does not make a lot of sense. It's just dumb. I mean, let's just be fair. If I want to go glass half full, and boy, have I been trying to figure out a way to go glass half full for the last week. The Falcons watched Desmond Ridder, Taylor Heineke, and my boy Marcus Mariota play quarterback the last 2 years after a long stretch with the great and underrated Matt Ryan. And maybe that front office was like, never again. We're never again going to be in that spot at any point. And despite paying the bag to Cousins, he's 36 years old. He's got a lower leg injury. Whether he is healthy or not, we have an option that should be able to still use all these weapons that we spent all this capital on. So that's the glass half full. But still overall a C- because this was the ultimate draft to get whatever defender you wanted. And we could have traded back and done so. We could have traded back into the first round and got a great corner. The best corner in the draft went, I think, 24th. Pass rushers were going 17th, 18th, the first, second best pass rushers. And regardless, you would think the Vikings at 11, at a minimum, would have traded up from 8 to secure that they got J.J. McCarthy. And even if we didn't get their other first rounder, maybe we get a second, a third, something. And I think we still could have got Penix at 11. So I have to give them a C-, and that is being kind.
I mean, contract-wise, I understand it from the Falcons' point of view because you've got 2 years of Kirk Cousins where you can't do anything with that contract, but at least year 3, you can get out of it if you need to. I mean, he has, $37.5 million of dead cap after that. So, that's not too bad. If you want to wait 2 years, if you want to do the Jordan Love plan, 2 years and you're done. Kirk Cousins will be 38 years old. You probably got to figure he's going to fall off a little bit. He's probably going to be fine and probably go do the Phillip Rivers thing of being a statue and some running backs and dragging Elkhart around with him so he can maneuver in the pocket. That's about what you're getting out of Kirk Cousins. But look, with the 8th pick though, you've got your pick of the litter. Falcons need a defense. That's a luxury that at least Jordan Love
kind of like a tight
old.
end or a running back in your top 8 picks 2 of the last 3 years.
Right. And at least when the Packers did that, Jordan Love was 20 years old and it was a late first. You could kind of stomach that. And as someone who hated that big time as a Packers fan, we'll get to that. But, that's a lot of capital to spend on waiting for a guy for 2 years, hoping he's the guy, taking the most valuable resource that you have as an NFL franchise, which is a rookie quarterback contract. You just paid 9 figures to a quarterback, guaranteed. Wow. Lot to process with that. I can understand it, but it's still a very tough pill to swallow, and I completely understand. Glass half full, glass half empty. I don't know what I do as a Falcons fan, but
it's pretty
you can
much
understand it for both sides.
Cover your eyes, cover your ears. The other thing I want to say that is going to happen, this is my other problem with it. Who is the most popular player on every NFL team that doesn't play? The backup quarterback. So if Cousins has 1 bad game, 2 bad games, the Atlanta fan base is going to be clamoring for Penix. And nobody wants to talk about this. It will turn into a race thing, as ultimately everything does in Atlanta, Georgia. It's just I'm telling you, I've grown up in Georgia. I've lived in Atlanta. I wish things weren't the way they are, but they are. And it's going to turn into, it's just going to be a mess unless Cousins is really good immediately. And kind of like what Ryan did after, post Vic, everybody loves a winner. Everybody loves somebody playing well, but just not a good situation. Do we want to go to Washington or do we want to go to Green Bay yet? Or first?
Let's go to this trade question right here in the YouTube chat before we get to that. Jamie says, I just seen the worst trade, in my opinion, in a podcast league. Josh Allen and Christian Watson for the 101 and Jared Goff. What do you think about that?
The face says it all.
Yeah, just why?
That's an ulcer.
Yeah.
And I hate to be that guy, but I will say that if you think Caleb Williams is as good as I'm somebody that does, I kind of like the Caleb side, especially if it's a 2 QB league. If it's a 1, no, 100% not. If it's a 2 QB league and I'm getting golf with all those weapons in Detroit, plus Caleb Williams, I think it's actually relatively fair.
Like Watson is a lottery ticket. Like after his rookie season, he scored all those touchdowns. He is what he is right now. He's a lottery ticket. Josh Allen is fine. You know, it's basically the tantalization of Watson and a known commodity, the top quarterback, Josh Allen, for Caleb Williams and Jared Goff. Like if you need the 2 quarterbacks, I mean, I guess I can stomach that, but just optics wise, the one just seeing 101, and we know it's Caleb, but it just seeing the 101 there kind of skews it a little bit because it's not a actual commodity,
right? Unless you again believe in Caleb Williams,
right?
But it's to your point, you don't know. Nobody knows right now. We can say whatever we want, but we'll see.
Well, there is something we do know. We do know that right now, in terms of offensive infrastructure and architecture, that the Chicago Bears have set up Caleb Williams for immediate success there, both from an NFL quarterback perspective as well as from a fantasy football perspective. Versus Josh Allen, you take away his top 2 receiving options, you bring in Curtis Samuel, and then you still have Khalil Shakir,
Keon Coleman. Yeah,
you know, there's a lot of unknowns in that. I shouldn't say unknowns, but like unproven.
They're gambling. There's no doubt to your point. Like, they're definitely gambling with these guys. None of the commodities other than Kincaid, none of them.
I mean, I guess if you're hoping that Shane Waldron can get fired after this year, and maybe somebody you can get an adult in the room the next year. I mean, if you're banking on that, you're probably in a good spot. But like, do you want to trust? Yeah, Caleb Williams with Shane Waldron is like that's oil and water right there.
Fair point. I will say again, if it's a 1 QB league, 100% agree. There's no way I'd do it. 2 QB league, I might consider it. So Jorge, since you tried to dodge the question, let's go straight to you. Jake Daniels, how you feeling? How's Washington? Give me your feelings on the draft and give me a grade.
You know, living, just outside the nation's capital here, the talk for months and weeks and days leading up to the NFL draft was, is it Drake? Is it Daniels? Is it JJ McCarthy? At the end of the day, us Washington fans just wanted a goddamn decision to be made, something that they can't do on Capitol Hill. But fortunately, the NFL can do when it comes to who's going to be the quarterback of the Washington Commanders. I like it. It's one of those things where he's going to start right away. You know what you're getting in Washington. Not a great offensive line, even though they addressed the situation in free agency, as well as drafting one of the left guards / left tackles later on in, let's see here, which round was that? That was in round
Coleman.
Brandon Coleman from TCU. Right now, I think the starting left tackle for the Commanders is not on the roster. I think you're going to see something kind of materialize as the summer goes on. Because even then, with Brandon Coleman being drafted in round 3, a lot of people, a lot of scouts, a lot of people a lot smarter than I am are saying he's more of a guard type player. We don't really know if he's really the person who's going to be able to take that next step in his development to be an elite left tackle. They have Cornelius Lucas, who is starting at guard, but has played limited snaps at left tackle. But is he the long-term answer? No. So some concerns there. So when you have a bad offensive line that can't protect your quarterback, you must be pretty happy that you have a quarterback that can just run away from all situations that are bad. And as long as he's not channeling his inner Mike Allstott, like Robert Griffin III said back in 2014, he should be fine trying to get extra yardage and help matriculate the ball down the field, as Hank Stram said back in the day in Super Bowl II. What I really enjoyed are the next 2 picks here, or the next couple picks here. Johnny Newton, defensive tackle from Illinois. Look, for the longest time, we would call Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne the Alabama Wall. going back to 2017, 2016, I believe around that time is when we got Jonathan Allen. And nobody wanted to disrupt the Alabama wall. Just keep the Alabama wall intact, get as many players as you can, keep that defensive line, healthy, stacked at all times. And this is the first time where you saw an indication of, man, like they're tinkering now. And then you see like the cracks in the wall last year with Jonathan Allen coming out after a few games saying he hates being in losing situations, yada, yada, yada. This sucks. I hate losing. Okay, well, guess what, buddy? No, sure. But guess what? Your guaranteed money is up after this year, and there's no reason why Washington can't move on from you. And here you go. Now you're plugging in one of the highest pressure-rated defensive tackles in all of college football last year. And I don't just mean like in the Power 5 conferences. I mean in terms of all of college football. He could come in, get some limited snaps there, and then be a full-time starter next year next to Deron Payne. So I really like the fact that they went from where they're in their mind, it was not necessarily a team need, but best player available to them at the time, which I wholeheartedly agree with. And then, Ben Sinnott, tight end, Kansas State. Everybody's loving Ben Sinnott pick. Chris Battistell here at Fantasy and Frames. He is a huge Ben Sinnott fan. After the draft, he's like, which color jersey should I get? I'm like, the burgundy, of course, for Ben Sinnott. So, everybody talks about Brock Bowers, and rightfully so, as being the best tight end in this draft class. Well, Ben Sinnott was right behind him. Maybe not neck and neck behind him, but it was behind him. He's a great blocking tight end. He's a great receiving tight end. Most importantly, I thought Cole Turner the past couple seasons was going to take that next step for the Washington Commanders, especially with Bieniemy being the offensive coordinator last year. With Logan Thomas and his injury history, I thought for sure we were going to see Cole Turner step up, which is why I acquired him in a bunch of dynasty leagues. That did not turn out to be the case. Enter Ben Sinnott, who definitely has a higher floor and can potentially form a really good tandem with Jaden Daniels in Washington there. So I'd give the first 4 picks, probably a B minus. But then at the end of the day, everybody wants to talk about Luke McCaffrey in round 3 at pick 100, wide receiver out of Rice. Look, it's not always a great sign when you're your own man, your own individual, and the only thing they have to talk about you for the 2 seconds that they're allowed to talk about you, because they have more high-profile players to talk about on TV shows, is that, well, he's the brother of Christian McCaffrey. Did you know that? Did you know that his dad was Ed McCaffrey, the wide receiver for the Broncos?
Luke McCaffrey is going to be
Wait, he is?
Great.
Yes. Did you know that?
He's going to be very good. Like I met him at the Senior Bowl. I don't think people are talking. He played running back, moved to wide receiver, put up great stats. The big thing to me is he's big enough and athletic enough to be at the next level. To me, I love the pick, and I've seen y'all get hammered for it. He's going to know how to work. He's going to be a professional. He knows how to be a good professional.
First one in, last one out.
That's what I'm saying. No, but seriously, there is. You look, some guys work harder than others, and that was one thing he said was he's learned from his dad and from his brother what it takes to get to that level and to stay there. And I think he's perfect when you look at McLaurin and Dotson on the outside with what you're trying to get. I love him.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. What I don't like is the fact that all they mention, for the limited amount of time they're giving him on TV is that
he's a McCaffrey.
He's a McCaffrey. And I hope
being a Kardashian in the world of entertainment.
Oh, well, let's not put that light on him.
Could be worse. Could be a Dahmer.
Damn right. Or a Bundy.
These are factual statements. Wow.
I mean, they would be talking about him for sure for the wrong reasons if that were
his uncle murdered about 25 people directly or indirectly, and
he is related to somebody. He is related to somebody that dressed up as a clown when he wasn't murdering people.
I'm sorry, Jorge. I got you sidetracked. What was the exact grade though?
B. I'll give a B for their draft class this year. Like they addressed need, but were these plays sexy plays? No, but they help fill the roster that they've been needing to fill and turn over for the past couple seasons now. So, in Adam Peters we trust until proven otherwise.
Let me tell you something. I'm disappointed in you for not being more excited for Jaden Daniels because in the last 5 years, I want to list you the quarterbacks that Jorge has watched. Case Keenum, Dwayne Haskins, Colt McCoy, Alex Smith, Kyle Allen, Taylor Heineke, Garrett Gilbert, Carson Wentz, and Sam Howell. God bless you, dude. Like, I'm sorry. I thought I was bitching about Mariota and Ritter for 2 years. Jesus Christ.
Well,
the last 5 years have been rough.
Well, here's the thing. God forbid Jaden Daniels goes down. We got Mariota as our backup. So
Mariota's a good backup. Like, if you're talking about for a backup quarterback, he's fine. It's a starter, you're in trouble.
Well, if he's thrust into a starting role, God forbid if there's an injury, then I'm not so happy anymore, you know?
But I'm saying it for a few games. Like he still went, I think, 6 and 7 as a starter, with Atlanta. He wasn't, he was awful, but he wasn't awful, if that makes sense. Let's move on to by far the best team of the three currently. Ended the season with a lot of momentum. And I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I'm looking at them to be in the Final Four, which I think you can get them at like plus 850 right now. The Cowboys are plus 650. Give me a break. But it's the Green Bay Packers. Kevin, what do you think about the draft? Give them a grade and talk about it as much as you want.
All right, so I guess we'll start at the top. Green Bay drafted a short arm tackle that's probably a better as a guard. They could have taken the guy who the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafted next in Graham Barton and probably been a lot better off. But apparently Brian Gutekunst loves his guys that can play every single position on the offensive line. Nothing wrong with that, but they always get hit hard. So you need guys that can filter in and out at guard, at tackle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The only offensive skill position player that they drafted with like the bajillion picks they had was Marshawn Lloyd, which probably will spell doom for A.J. Dillon. That dude could get cut. I think there's only like $165,000 left of dead cap if they were to cut him in training camp. So A.J. Dillon, noted not good football player, might have to watch out for Marshawn Lloyd, and I think that I don't want to say it spells doom for Josh Jacobs too, but
it's not good.
It's not great. It's not great.
It's like 1 year. It's all front loaded, right? His contract. Can't they kind
of for Jacobs? Yeah, they can. Yeah, he's like year to year. They can, if they want to get out of that after this year, they can.
And LaFleur's proven whoever's getting it done, he's gonna give him the rock. Like he's from that school of thought. Yeah.
Yeah. It was not just an Aaron Jones thing. Like Green Bay's running backs are always managed. So you can pretty much I'm not looking at Josh Jacobs as a 300 carry back. I mean, I think you probably should get that out of your head. I think Marshawn Lloyd, if he can at least jump over A.J. Dillon, should be involved from the very beginning. Now, I don't think that's fantasy relevant, but if you're looking at handcuff plus type guys that can, if Josh Jacobs goes down, that guys that can make an impact, if you're drafting like the 11th or 12th round in like best ball, Marshawn Lloyd is like a perfect guy to take. Green Bay is going to be efficient. They're going to be scoring a ton, and it's not always going to be Jordan Love. It's going to be
AJ Dillon's not going to do anything. So
right, AJ Dillon, who is 6 foot, 245 pounds, and plays like a 5'7", 165-pound, running back. That is AJ Dillon. What's the term? Hits like, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane.
Yes. Love it.
That's AJ Dillon to a T.
I've heard that in a minute.
But on the defensive side, I am not a noted defensive guy, but Javon Bullard, if that guy has so much dog in him, his dog has dog in him. Like just from the limited amount I've seen of that dude, I'm ready for that. Him and Xavier McKinney
just
patrol the back end. Like I love that.
Bullard can play nickel. He can play. I'm like, dude, he is so good. One of the best Georgia players we've had in minutes.
Alexander Selly too. So look, he's made for Green Bay. Edrin Cooper, who's a good off-ball linebacker, like that. Other than that, like Evan Williams, I don't mind either. Like they did a lot in the safeties. They did a lot on the offensive line. They drafted a quarterback, Michael Pratt, as well, who should be able to supplant Sean Clifford from Tulane. So as far as Green Bay's draft, is not a sexy draft by any means. It's not a draft where you go, oh, I love this guy, love this guy. It's a guys who can fit into the team concept kind of draft. I give it a B. we'll see if maybe Marshawn Lloyd can bump that up a little bit as far as the skill position players, but they're just they don't have a lot of holes. So really the holes that they had were in the back end. I wish they had maybe drafted another corner a little bit earlier. But they got help on the offensive line. They got help at safety. They grabbed the linebacker too. Good for me.
If you're looking for a nickel, though, seriously, we use Bullard, Georgia. So I think maybe they will use him both at safety and in that situation. The biggest issue for the Packers right now is, in my opinion, just, boy, that division is starting to look real frisky. Detroit had a good draft. I feel like Minnesota had a good draft. Obviously, we know Chicago set up Caleb Williams. But I think Green Bay kind of deserves to be right there with San Francisco as the two teams in the NFC. I feel pretty confident about the Eagles. I need to see the way after last year sent. But if the Eagles get back there, those are the three teams to me. They're kind of the cream of the NFC, at May in 2024, 5 months before season begins.
Yeah. I will say, the defensive players you were just rattling off there, Kevin, Justin Taylor and I on Shoot the Gap, our IDP show here at Fantasy and Frames last night, we spent a good chunk of time talking about Edgerrin Cooper lining up next to Quay Walker and Bullard, how he technically McKinney is slotted in as the strong safety, but those two can play interchangeably at any given time. So that could be a headache for IDP managers. But at the same time, Bullard is just so goddamn good. I would not be surprised. He reminded me a little bit of Javon Holland in terms of that ball hawking ability. When Holland was coming out of Oregon, now with the Miami Dolphins. Very excited to see what happens there in that secondary for Green Bay.
Yeah, if there's anything that Green Bay's defense has been, it's been very opportunistic, but also a lot of whiffs as far as trying to make plays and maybe trying to go for the interception. And I mean, they've had Rasul Douglas, they've had all these guys kind of interchangeable, Keyshawn Nixon. So it'd be nice to at least kind of get some consistency with their defense, especially in the secondary, because they really haven't had it. Jair Alexander's been out for, a few games here and there. And Eric Stokes, obviously, we haven't seen a lot of either. But, with everybody healthy, with how constructed right now, like that defense probably can be as good as anybody's right now. It's just a lot. They've had a lot of bad injury luck, especially in the secondary. So I do like it.
All right, a couple of other things let's do with the rookies, but I didn't want to just do the normal rankings because that's boring. Let's go plant your flag. In this rookie class, you can be saying from a dynasty standpoint, you can say just for this year, you can do it however you want. But I want, who is your guy that you're saying he is going to be much better than right now what most people are predicting? Jorge, would you like to go first?
Sure. I'm going to plant my flag and say that Lad McConkey is going to be
motherfucker.
He is going to be the wide receiver one of this draft class amongst rookie wide receivers in fantasy this year.
You took my plant your flag. I want to add because I had this stat all ready to go. Just go ahead and ruin it, Jorge. We ruined the good surprise. I threw it to you. That was my fault. Since Herbert has been in the league in 2020, 60% or more of his receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns, Gerald Everett, Guyton, Allen, Williams, Eckler. Guess what? They're all out of here. So 100% agree with you, especially after what we saw with Quentin Johnston last year. Oh, my God. Like, my boy Ladd, great landing spot. I'm going to plant my flag. And it's somebody that I've came around on in just the last couple of weeks. Brian Thomas Jr. with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They let go of Zay Jones, which that was the last piece I needed to see. What has Trevor Lawrence excelled at in his career? Those big physical guys, especially in the red zone. You look at Ingram, you look at Zay Jones, like that's just, those have been the guys he's had the most success with. And Brian Thomas Jr. might be the most athletic receiver in this bunch. And I think sometimes we forget how good Trevor Lawrence is. Like, I know they've had issues. I know he hasn't always looked great, but Trevor Lawrence is a legit, like QB1. And I'm talking about not just from a fantasy standpoint, from an actual, like, let's talk real quarterbacks and what they're capable to do. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to have a monster. It's one of those perfect locations, perfect situation. And I'm excited to see what he does. Kevin, who is your plant your flag guy?
It's not as solid as I would like to be, because looking back at like last season, like already Jordan Addison was like the guy that I wanted, like 100% lockdown. That wasn't changing just the way, because of the way the Vikings run their offense and run their personnel. It's a little more shaky, but AD Mitchell for the Colts, they're looking to, obviously, Alec Pierce has been on a milk carton for the last 2 years. The dude has run as much cardio as, anybody in the league. Those days are over. Get ready to learn the end of the bench, Alec Pierce. Josh Downs, I think he's fine, but as like a pure slot guy, I think the bloom is off the rose a little bit for him. So I do like Pittman and AD Mitchell, both 6'2" guys, being able to, get deep and get, be big targets for Anthony Richardson. You want guys, with Anthony Richardson that maybe the accuracy is not quite there, but I know he has pretty solid accuracy, but it's not quite where you want it. Getting bigger body guys there to be able to, the high catch radius, that's what you kind of want to make up for some of those mistakes. I mean, Pittman, AD Mitchell, Josh Downs, and then you got Jonathan Taylor behind you. I think you're pretty set on offense. And, what more do you almost have to do for Anthony Richardson? We're going to find out how good he is this year. And this Colts offense might be a little bit sneaky. I do like, as far as value goes, I mean, we could talk about Lad McConkey. We could talk about, Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas, etc. But I'll go a little bit further down, and I do like AD Mitchell. I know also honorable mention, I'll throw in Jermaine Burton in there too for Cincinnati, because like Minnesota, they do not play a lot of personnel. So if they bring back Tyler Boyd, who knows? I know he's actually talking to the Chargers right now as far as getting signed there. But look, the Bengals play 3 wide receivers a ton. We know, if T. Higgins plays on that franchise tag, obviously Chase Higgins and then another guy, Jermaine Burton could figure in, certainly, because they don't play their wide receiver 4 a lot. They don't play their wide receiver 5 a lot. So that's kind of an honorable mention there. But in terms of like value wide receivers, not picking the end of the first round guys, those are the 2 I like. And probably I take Mitchell over Burton.
Yeah, the Mitchell thing. Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
No, I'm going to play on my flag with this guy in terms of comparisons. I think at the end of this year, Bo Nix is going to have a better year than Drake May. And I don't know if that's like too.
I think that's fair.
You look at the scheme he steps into in Denver. Sean Payton, notorious for having his quarterbacks like a la Drew Brees get the ball to these playmakers that have, who take it to the house, yards after the catch for reception. And what did you do? You got his number 1 target, Bo Nix's, out of Oregon and Troy Franklin, where guess what? Bo Nix was the master of the short pass and Troy Franklin was the master of taking it to the house. So you're reuniting those 2 in Denver with the head coach that shares that same offensive philosophy. That shows a lot more cohesion. And therefore, I put a lot more faith into that than what's going on in New England. Yeah,
I completely agree with that. I think Franklin's another big winner from the wide receivers. The one thing I want to say about AD Mitchell, because I'm 1,000% with you on the Colts. Remind people, Shane Steichen is really good at drawing up offenses. He went to Indy. Richardson was hurt for most of the season. Taylor was hurt most of the season. It did not matter. The Colts scored points week in, week out. AD Mitchell, I think, is going to be the Devontae Smith in that Shane Steichen offense. And we saw what a huge impact he had year 1. I'm 100% with you. I think AD Mitchell, like, it is bullshit. Like, I know the GM came out and he was upset. That's just the league. It is the way it is. But as a UGA fan, it is what it is. Like, I mean, he does have a medical condition that when his blood sugar's low, like most diabetics, guess what? He gets really fucking cranky and he's not fun to be around. They're going to take care of that at the NFL level. I promise you. He's a great dude. He's a great father. I mean, just really did a lot of cool stuff. both on the Georgia campus, same thing at Texas. Big fan of A.D. Mitchell. All right, let's get to what everybody really wants to talk about. The SummerSlam 1990 double main event, match made in heaven, match made in hell. No, I'm just kidding. We've already done that once. But that is the way I did it. I'm looking for a perfect rookie/team fit and a really bad rookie/team fit. So let's start with the negative so we can end with the positive on these. Match made in hell. Who is it, Kevin?
I mean, if you're looking for this year, right now, it's Ricky Pearsall. I just don't know how he figures in right now for the 49ers. I know that pick it could have seemed to kind of be writing on the wall for one of those wide receivers if they get traded. But I just don't see how Ricky Pearsall is anything more than like Juwan Jennings, unless they make a concerted effort to get him the ball and let him do, motion or anything like that. If they want to use more 3 wide receivers, which
or trade one of those guys, right? Like that's it.
Right. He would have to be the top 2. He would have to be a top 2 wide receiver for him to recoup any value. If he's the 3rd wide receiver on this team, I don't see it. So I think really right now,
5th, because CMC and Kittle would both be above him, right?
Right. Like where are you? You're going to have to score a stupid amount of touchdowns. Nobody's banking on that. So I think Ricky Pearsall, at least for right now, this could change. I mean, anything can happen from now until September, but just as constructed, I just don't see how that works for a fantasy perspective right now.
All right. Following that frame of thinking, because I also am going with somebody who we're talking about this year. He's actually, I think, potentially may end up being the best wide receiver in this class, Odunze. Horrible landing spot. And if you're in best ball drafts right now taking Odunze before including Lad McConkey, what was the old South Park? If you French fry when you're supposed to pizza, you're going to have a bad time. You're going to have a bad time because, I mean, let's be honest here. You got a rookie QB who I think the world of. You really think he can support 3 really good wide receivers? Even if, let's say Allen gets hurt again. 2 really good wide receivers with Cole Kmet, with DeAndre Swift, with all those running backs. I think Odunze is very risky this year because of the expectations and where he's going, because he was the 3rd receiver off the board. He absolutely could, but he's best in the slot. You're telling me they're going to put Odunze in the slot and Allen out wide? That ain't going to happen. They signed Keenan Allen to play him in the slot.
Right, and Keenan Allen is not just a normal 32-year-old wide receiver. I mean, he put up a 2.37 yards per route run last year. Like, the dude is still, like, elite. He's not, like, really tail-ending. He's not like Adam Thielen, where he's going to have, like, a 1.01 yards per route run. We know he's at the end of his rope. He's not. He's really good at what he does, and it's going to take an injury for Roma. Right now, Odunze, copy Odunze, find Jackson Smith and Jigba from last year, Control V. That is Odunze right now. Like, you are hoping that he can find his way to, like, if he's lucky, 65% of the routes for the Bears. Like, that's best case scenario. Unless someone gets hurt,
what, like a 10% target share? Like, seriously.
And are you expecting the Bears to magically, like, play 11 personnel so much? No.
And Caleb flinging a bunch of rookie. Again, I don't want to get it misconstrued. I think Odunze could end up being the best wide receiver of all these guys. I love him. I think he's perfect for Caleb Williams. And
again, Shane Waldron.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
the guy who had Sean McVay's phone number for the last 6 years and has made a career out of it. That's pretty much Nathaniel Hackett. He is NFC Nathaniel Hackett.
Oh, that's it.
Wow.
Nathaniel Hackett had oh my God, why can't I think of his name? The former Jaguars coach. Why can't I not think of his name? Doug Marrone. He had Doug Marrone's phone number for the last 10 years and basically made a career out of it. Shane Waldron, copy that to Sean McVay. That is what Shane Waldron is.
Yikes. Jorge, who's your match made in hell? Because I can't, that's got to be the last word on that.
So to stay on brand for myself, I'm going to talk about the defensive side of the ball and tie that into IDP fantasy football. And heading into the draft, had Latu out of UCLA as my number one defensive lineman / edge rusher. I thought he was going to step in wherever he got drafted and produce for fantasy football purposes in IDP. He goes to Indianapolis. I thought he was going to be lined up opposite of Samson Ebukam. You have DeForest Buckner in the middle. You have a lot of one-on-one opportunities. And then today they just announced that they've re-signed Kwity Paye. And it's like, okay, so now basically we have a rotation, and that's going to mean a decrease in snaps. That's going to mean a decrease in opportunity. And that's not to say that he can't be more efficient with the limited snaps / volume that he's going to see. But, the odds are, not in his favor, so to speak, with that. So I'm kind of fading him for at least this year. I want to look into the details of the Kwity Paye contract just to see how long it is for. But definitely disappointed there.
All right, let's get to the Macho Man Miss Elizabeth section of this question. The match made in heaven. And seriously, kids, if you have not seen it, just YouTube it. The Macho Man's outfit to get married, just chef's kiss. And the Miss Elizabeth, just class personified. Okay, so seriously, check it out. My match made in heaven, I'm going to shock everybody because everybody was like, oh my God, it's such a terrible landing spot. It's Brock Bowers. He's the baddest motherfucker on the planet. And you guys don't get it. Michael Mayer is a tight end. Brock Bowers is a weapon, an offensive weapon that they lined up at UGA in the backfield. They lined him up in the slot. They lined him up outside. And guess what? The Raiders lost Jacoby Myers. Oh, guy got a lot of targets, a lot of receptions, even with Devontae Adams. They got an upgrade at QB, in my opinion, with Gardner Minshew, who, trust me, RIP O'Connell, he's not going to beat Gardner Minshew out for that job. I really like what the Raiders have done. I think Zamir White's a good running. I think that is another frisky offense. They played hard for Antonio Pierce. And I don't think people understand the mismatch that is coming when Brock Bowers is on safeties and corners, which is what teams are going to try to do. Yes, he's a little small for a tight end, but he is a monster for a pass-catching wide receiver, which is basically what they got. I love where he went. Meyer in line. Bowers probably will be more slot outside in the backfield. And they'll run some two tight end set too, but I think it's a great situation for Bowers. That is my match made in heaven. Fantasy perspective, not saying the Raiders are going to be good. Kevin, what's your match made in heaven?
I think I'm going to stick with Marshawn Lloyd, honestly, because I love how, when Green Bay, we talked about it before, how they manage their running backs. Josh Jacobs, I've never really been a big fan of because I think he's a little overrated as far as an actual. He went
to Alabama. It's okay to dislike him, Kevin. You don't have to make excuses.
Oh no, I'm not making excuses. I just say I think the dude blows.
There we go. Yeah, now we're talking.
But look, if we're getting to that, I think Joe Mixon blows.
Cam Akers, he doesn't even blow. He just,
No, that dude is a Hoover. But but as far as. Look, I'm obligated to talk shit about running backs and then draft all in the 12th to 17th round.
Read his handle, for God's sakes. He is an expert.
Look, Marshawn Lloyd is a perfect, double-digit round running back that I think can work his way in and take a lot more from Josh Jacobs than people anticipate. People look at Josh Jacobs from what he was in the Raiders, where he had, especially 2 years ago, where he broke fantasy. And I was wrong on that. I was happy to be wrong. It was good to see that, but then the kind of bloom came off the rose. I keep stealing that phrase from Conrad Thompson, by the way, because he says it all the time. I can't do his. I was going to try to do. I was going to
say, if you could get good Conrad, he's the best, man.
I'll do the JR.
Why don't you give it this big pile of shit? Like, he's just the best, man.
I love when he yells at Bruce too. When he really gets up in that higher register.
You can tell he's legit upset. Like, this was so stupid. What the fuck were y'all thinking, basically?
Exactly. And then Bruce has nothing to say. He just is shaking his head. But yeah, so Marshawn Lloyd, I think he's, can work into Josh Jacobs' workload. He's not going to get the workload that he got with the Raiders. I mean, he's not going to be getting like 180 carries, but I still think from a fantasy point of view, if you're going to be drafting Josh Jacobs in the 3rd round versus Marshawn Lloyd in the 12th, Packers manage their running backs, it's going to be an efficient offense. I think Marshawn Lloyd could work his way into being a stalwart running back in fantasy in a year, 2 years tops.
And I think, again, high upside in best balls. I'm with you. Like, he's one of those guys I'm grabbing from the 10th round on all day, every day. Jorge, like the Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth in the co-main event of SummerSlam and the match made in heaven, what rookie with the team he was drafted to is your match made in heaven?
It's Malachi Corley. Like, let's not forget.
I like this.
Aaron Rodgers loves his slot wide receivers. Randall Cobb's not on the team. I believe it was just a 1-year deal last year. And he's stepping into a situation where you have Garrett Wilson on one side, you have Mike Williams on the other, you got Breece Hall and the harem of running backs that the New York Jets now have.
Harem.
Hey, they're gonna be sitting is what they're gonna be doing, watching Breece Hall go, hey, I'm the best running back in the league now.
You say harem, and I'm thinking like they're walking into like one of those brothels in Game of Thrones.
That is definitely not where I was going with that, but I can understand.
Littlefinger,
Okay.
Oh,
moving on.
The name of the character, okay? Get your head out of the gutter, Jorge.
I'm just saying, like
the brothels in the early seasons, okay?
Thank you very much for clarifying that. Yes. Look, he's stepping into a great situation with Aaron Rodgers, assuming Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy. And, this offense for the Jets has the potential to be even more explosive than people were thinking it was going to be last year when he got traded to New York from Green Bay. And so you give Aaron Rodgers another weapon, that should see plenty of opportunities. I just love everything about this. I love everything about the drafting, the signing, the location, and most importantly, the quarterback he's going to be tied to for at least a couple of years.
I love it. I think Leggett, I saw in the comments, is another one that to me makes a lot of sense. With Bryce, I'm somebody that last year was a shit show for him, man.
Still might be.
It still may, but I do like what they built around. They've got guys where he should be able to get the ball out a lot quicker, which to me that makes so much more sense than having like Adam Thielen and all these guys running down the field.
Amir Smith-Marset doesn't do anything for you?
He does not. No, he doesn't. But I do like the Deontay Johnson Leggett, especially with Jonathan Brooks now in the backfield with Chuba. Like I kind of now like, that Panthers core on offense. All right, we're going to get out of here. But first, one other thing I want to do is we don't want to give all of our love to the youngsters as fellow old guys. Let's talk about guys that are already in the NFL. They didn't get the pomp and circumstance of the NFL draft that we talked about for the last 3 months. So let's just real quickly give a winner and loser of the non-rookies. I'll start. The biggest winner, without a doubt, Zamir White for the Las Vegas Raiders. If you were like me saying, buy Zamir White in Dynasty, boy, did you dodge just bullet after bullet after bullet. Thought they'd get her back in free agency. Nope. Thought they would take a back early in the draft. Nope. And I like Law, by the way, but I don't think he's going to challenge Zamir for carries. You look at, that was not a small sample size down the stretch. He was getting like 25 to 30 touches a game for a 7-8 week stretch. We know Antonio Pierce is going to pound the rock. That's just his style. He's the big winner. The loser for me, and this will shock a lot of people, but my boy Rachaad White in Tampa. Not a very good running back. Let's be honest. Not somebody is averaging 4.55 yards per carry. Very good pass catching back. Like I thought, an elite pass catching back. So a little baffled that the best pass catching back in this class, and Bucky Irving, I don't think they got him to take early down work. So it's just going to cut into White's overall targets, receptions, and unless he, just rushes for more yards than he has in the past, I don't think he's going to be a borderline RB1 like a lot of people have him penciled in this year. And I was one of the ones, if they didn't go out and make this kind of decision, I thought he was going to get enough work. But if I'm losing just 25, 50% of his passing, game prowess, I'm kind of out where he's going. So that is my winner and loser. Jorge, give me your winner and loser.
That is a great one. You know what? I'm going to make it a collective sigh of relief here. Well, no, that's a little bit shock. I'm sorry, I'm talking to myself as I'm going to get ready to answer your question. The biggest winner here is still Tyler Lockett, because they have not done anything except for last year drafting Jackson Smith and Jigba. There's been no talk of him retiring. There's been no talk of JSN having a larger role in this offense. Nothing in the draft tells you that the Seahawks are thinking anything as far as doing any changes to their wide receiver core. The loser is Jackson Smith-Njigba because nothing's changed. The status quo has been maintained in Seattle. If I can go a step further, the big winner here, I think, and we've been seeing it across Twitter today, and that's the only reason why I'm bringing it up here, is that the big winner here is Sam Howell, quarterback now for the Seattle Seahawks, because now there's all this rumbling and talk that maybe the Seahawks aren't so sold on Geno Smith. And maybe they thought they got a good steal in the trade with Washington with Sam Howell.
Jorge, do you want to do your Wade Barrett and tell Seattle fans, I've got some bad news for you? If you're thinking Sam Howell's your savior.
I'm just saying.
Hey, I need that jersey to pay off, damn it.
You know what? And Sam Howell can get you those yards. That'll help with that jersey paying off. So
potentially. And
they didn't do anything to adjust the quarterback situation. So I'm just, again, going off of news around the NFL as of today. That's where I'm going with it. So I'm going to plant my flag on all those Seattle players I just talked about.
All right, what about loser?
Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Geno Smith.
You definitely pivoted so seamlessly that I missed that part. That's not bad. All right, Kevin, who's your winner and loser from the quote-unquote veteran group?
Big winner, sneaky, Jameson Williams.
Yes.
Detroit added literally nobody. This offense is unchanged. Jameson Williams is going to be a big part of this passing game. You know, he's going to be – I don't know. I mean, I love Sam Laporta, but I feel like we're due for like a little bit of regression with him. Amon-Ra St. Brown signed the big money deal. We haven't seen much out of Jameson Williams. I think he can be a sleeping giant in this offense. I think for all of the players that they love to use those Khalif Raymonds and Josh Reynolds, and you know DPJ is still kicking around somehow. I think they really need to kind of shore up their depth and just say, all right, you know what? We drafted Jameson Williams high in the draft for a reason. We got to see what we have in him. So adding him to Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta and the two running backs that they have, I think he's a big winner. They added literally nobody in the skill position game. Biggest loser, Miles Sanders, get ready to learn Arlington Renegades, buddy. No, really. Kyren Williams. Good luck getting me to draft him on purpose at the 1-2 turn in drafts, because I do think Blake Corum can be a kind of a barnacle on the side of Kyren Williams. Look, if we want to play the draft capital game, Kyren Williams was a 5th round pick, buddy. So
I don't even think it's that, though. But to your point, I think it's right. Is they did this because they need Kyren Williams. When Williams, Stafford, Kupp, and Puka were on the field,
right,
number one most efficient offense in the league last year, most efficient offense in almost 15 seasons. So they can't have him getting banged up, and he can't have the touches or the snaps that he did last year. I think it's like a net positive for the team, but you're absolutely right. From a fantasy perspective, it's terrifying because, again, McVay he'll change running backs like a guy in a midlife crisis will change wives or girlfriends. I mean, it's like that.
And they thought so highly of Kyren Williams that they not only drafted Blake Corum in the 3rd round, but also brought in giant killer Boston Scott too. So look, when you feel so good about a running back like that, you know that maybe
did they really bring in Boston Scott? Wait a minute. That's
yesterday they brought him up. Damn you, Mr. Scampers in the chat, because I can't believe I brain fired on this. He has who I think is going to be an underrated player heading into redraft season. Zach Moss in Cincinnati. Like the backfield is yours, my friend.
Touche, Mr. Scampers.
Chase Brown.
And he, in a lot of ways, was a better Joe Mixon, right? And the pass catching, running in Indy than what Joe Mixon's been the last couple of years. The one other guy I do want to mention real quick, and I know it makes me sick to say this, but fucking Patrick Mahomes is the big winner. We've seen him win back-to-back Super Bowls with a bunch of scrubs. They go out and get a guy that can really stretch the field and worthy. Nobody's going to be Tyreek, but the first guy I think that puts that kind of fear in a defense on their team, a 6'6" tight end. It looks like Rice will not be suspended this year. Like, how do they keep getting away with this bullshit? Nate
You're either
Marco.
Tyreek Hill or Mecole Hardman. Pick a side, buddy.
Touche. Even though go dogs, Mecole Hardman. All right, let's, because I don't want to run into Stacey's show. Jorge, anything you want to plug?
Just, subscribe to all of our podcasts. We now have every single show divvied up into their own podcast. If you like Fantasy Football Weekly, subscribe to the Fantasy Football Weekly podcast. If you like the Fantasy Football Draft Show, which is coming on next with Stacey Perez, subscribe to that. Fourth and Frames, Dynasty 365, Shoot the Gap, you name it. Subscribe to all those podcasts. You can listen to them now on Apple, Spotify, and Google Pod. So, just let us know what you think. Rate, review, and subscribe. And thank you very much for tuning in tonight.
Let us know what you think if you enjoyed. If you don't like us, we don't want to hear from you. Just straight up. Kevin, what you want to plug, buddy?
I got nothing to plug right now. I'm just gonna get deep in the weeds in Best Ball Mania 5. So we're gonna be doing that in a few minutes. But I mean, it is the season, baby. This is what I've been waiting for.
Oh, that's right. People listening are about to get 2 hours back to back of me and you. Thank God Stacey's gonna be there.
Right? Someone's got to keep us in line.
Erica too, right? And Erica joining us?
Erica Brown is making her debut
very
in the
excited.
show.
Love it. So a lot of cool stuff, obviously, on Fantasy and Friends. I just want to plug, what is the exact number now? It was 901. What is it at now, Jorge?
We're at 905. We are 95 subscribers away
Come
from
on,
1,000.
bitches. Like 95 people. Text a friend. Say, hey, you know what? These guys aren't the worst in the world. Do you have to watch anything? We don't care. We just want to hit that 1,000 milestone, okay? Like, just tell me. Like, it's like my mom. She subscribes to this channel. You think my mom has ever watched anything on Fantasy and Frames? Probably not. But she subscribes, which is what's most important. I'm just kidding.
Don't draft Miles Sanders. All
Exactly. Love you, Mom. But seriously, we would love to hit that 1,000. We got time before the beginning of the season, but I think you guys can make it happen because you're awesome. We appreciate, as always, all the comments, just all the interactions. That is a big reason why we do this. And again, I'm very excited to be doing this show with two people that I really like, and Kevin and Jorge, and somebody who slightly scares me, and Britt, because I'm going to tell you, she gave me a couple of looks during that draft. I was like, oh shit, she's got that side of her too. So I'm going to be sure to stay on Britt's side moving forward, but she'll be back next week. This quartet will be here just stirring it up. We'll see you guys soon.